Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing something a little different. I'm going to be doing an infected scratch wound, so I hope you enjoy. I just start off by taking a red body pencil. It can be a lip liner or anything similar to that, and I just draw out roughly where I think the scratch is going to be. Now I'm going to take out my ink palette by Skin Illustrator and start with the prime red colour. This is all activated by alcohol, so I'm just going to spray a little bit into the palette and then I'm going to start drawing the trauma onto my arm. Now I lightly start to go over where I've drawn on the pencil. Don't want to go too dark at the start in case you mess it up. And then I'm going to go darker at the top and the bottom because scratches usually aren't an even cut all the way through. And I'm just going to feather that out on the edges just to bleed out the red into the skin. Go in with the aged blood colour in my palette and start to go over those darker areas at the top and bottom just to give a little bit of definition as to where the wound would have bled from. I'm going to use the prime red colour again and just draw a little bit more trauma around the edges of the scratch just to make it look that little bit more sorer and more inflamed. I've just noticed that little guy crawling across my mat. Now I'm going to go in with some fresh scratch. I love this stuff. It is super realistic and I use it for all my special effects wounds. Use my blood like I used my inks. I start off light and then I build up the intensity. I put more blood where I had put the aged blood ink and then just dabbed a little bit along the middle. Now you can either leave the scratch like that depending on what you're wanting it for, but this section is showing how you put more trauma around the skin and start to show how the skin starts to marble for a different effect, whether it's a zombie scratch or it's been infected by a rusty piece of steel or whatever you're wanting to go for. So I'm still using my inks, going in with the prime red colour and now with a black stipple sponge. I'm just going to be quickly stippling that all around the top half of my arm. Then I'm going to go in with a blue ink and just start to really emphasize my veins. As you can see at the top of my wrist and along my forearm, you can start to see the blue, but I'm just going to enhance that a little bit more. Then I'm going to go back to my prime red colour. I'm going to be using one of V-Neil's brushes. This brush is great for stippling because the end fibres are so thin, but they do tend to soak up a lot of product, so that's why I just dab it first and then go onto my skin, or it will come out too intense. Going into my Supracolor palette, just to use one of the greens. This is a little different to the inks because this is just a cream product. It doesn't have to be activated by alcohol. I'm just going to go in with another type of sponge. I actually just cut this out of foam. It's great for different textures. I'm just going to stipple that all over my arm. But make sure you dab that one first as well. I didn't realize how intense the green actually came out on my skin. Then I'm going to use the yellow out of the Supracolor palette with an orange stipple sponge. Just do the same as I did with the green, because when your skin is a bit yuck and starts getting infected, it starts to turn a bit yellowish, just like when you get a bruise. Alright, now I'm going to go back to my inks and use a dark brown and my foam stipple sponge and just do the same thing as before and start stippling it around just to make my skin seem a little bit more discolored and a bit dirty. I'm just mixing the yellow and blue inks together and adding a lot of alcohol to really thin out the product. And then I'm going to go back in over the wound just so it makes it look like all the infection's coming from that one area. So that's basically it for the infected scratch wound. You can add some liquid blood if you want to, or more blood around the wound. It's up to you guys. If you didn't like the colours I used for the infection or the marbling of the skin, you can change them. You can add purples or more blues. It's completely up to you guys, and I will be doing more special effects videos in the near future, so stay tuned. Thanks guys!